guys, Howard here with From the Beginning by Emerson, Lake and Palmer, ELP. I am in standard tuning, okay, and I've gotten a lot of requests for this one, okay, so I'm finally getting to it. And if my trusty Fender Paramount will stay in tune for me today, the weather seems to be affecting it. It's very cold and chilly in Southern California. So I'll put the tab up on the screen. I'll break this down into sections. The intro, the verses and all that stuff, and even what happens before the solo section, okay? So right out the gate, we have some natural harmonics. And then on the first E string, 10 to 12, and slide all the way down to 7 and strike it again. So you want to land that note first and then pick it again. So we have now, the way I'm doing that is, I've seen Greg Lake play this quite a few times. Sometimes he does it with a bend, sometimes he does it with a hammer-on and pull-off, but the recording to me sounds more like a quick slide, but either way is fine. So 5, 7, 8, 7 with a quick slide, and then 5th fret on the B string, which you can see, and then we have a hammer-on into a slide. And I think that all sounds quite nice. Then we have an open A string, open G string, and then slide on the first string from the 3rd fret to the 8th fret. And once again, that's a slide to the note and then pick it again. And you can use pretty much whatever fingers you want. You can see I kind of mosh it up. Sometimes I'll with the 2nd finger, sometimes with the 3rd, okay? So again, that is... And then we have an A minor 9th chord. I've put the names of the chords in the tab for you in case you are a theory aficionado, okay? Some people want to know the names of these chords. This is an A minor 9th technically, and the pattern he's got here, he's raking across the strings, but it's really 3 16th notes into 2 8th notes. So it's kind of super specific. And that'll give you that sound. So what we have so far then is and then we move to this very fast picked section, okay? So you're going down 3 strings, D, G, B, okay? And I've got the 10th fret on the B string and the 11th fret on the G string. Swing all the way down to the first E string and come up 3. Just like so. And that's pretty quick, right? And then we flip the chord over essentially. The first finger moves up to the G string, 10th fret, and the 2nd finger moves down towards your feet to the B string at the 11th fret, and you do the same picking pattern. So both of those chords together. And then take this chord shape, move it all the way down to the 5th fret on the G string and the 6th fret on the B string. And he kind of slows that one down and then just sweeps across the strings. So together we have... And that is the whole very cool intro. And then we are in. And this is very cool stuff, of course. This is a very cool tune. I love it. We're bending the 6th string at the 2nd fret a half step. I use 2 fingers to do it actually, but you can just use 1 if you want to. But you do want to make that half step because what we're looking for is that combined with the open D string. it gives you like a G power chord. So you bend it a good half step, hold the bend, pick the open D string, and then bend it again. So you want to use a downstroke and an upstroke for that. And that's it, okay? And then we are in. So what we have going there is after the bend, hit the open A string, and we're playing that A minor ninth chord again. And if you watch Greg play it live in particular, you'll see what he's doing right there. He kind of swings, and he's got a light downstroke and then an upstroke, and then kind of hitting the guitar, if you know what I mean. You hear that on the recording, that little thump, and it sounds great. And they've got some percussion in there as well, of course. So I'll do that strumming nice and slow. So we have... And then we move to an E minor ninth. There we have it, okay? Totally different shape, but it's still an E minor ninth, okay? And you'll do that 3 times out the gate on this one because he plays it twice before he comes in singing. So really, when he comes in singing, the verses, you only play those chords once each, okay? So we have again. And then we move into this section, and I want to talk about this a little bit because the way he plays it on the original recording is different from the way he sort of evolved it live over time. The way I've got it tabbed out is the way you'll hear it on the actual original recording. So you can see I'll just do that slowly, and then I'll talk about the way he kind of started playing it over the years. To that, okay? But the way he started playing it over time was simply this. Just for those first 2 chords, everything else stayed the same. So that's just a C chord picked right down to the B string. Down, 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 up. And then move your second finger to the 2nd fret on the A string. Standard stuff, but he changed it to that over time, and I kind of like that, to tell you the truth. I think it sounds pretty cool. So the choice is yours. You can play it either way, whatever sounds best to you, or just whatever works best for you, okay? So let's talk about the very tail end of that. And on the original recording, you'll hear a couple of open strings being hit, I think a B or something like that, before he gets back to the bend. Those are just naturally occurring things. That's just him continuing to pick while he moves to the next chord. So he randomly hits an open B string or a G or whatever it is. That's natural stuff. I tell my students all the time, don't get too hung up on that. Just try to play the tune, right? Because that's what he's doing. And those little anomalies, those little nuances are just naturally occurring things, right? And in fact, when he comes back around and plays it again, he accidentally, I'm guessing, plays the G string instead of the D, right? That still sounds good. It's just, like I said, it's a naturally occurring thing when you're making your way through a tune. So coming off of that last chord, you can see the picking pattern is a little bit longer. We have 4 more notes. Right? And like I said, he kind of lifts off early to get back there, but just try to hang with the chord as best you can. You know, just do it like that. Play it to the best of your ability. And above all, enjoy doing it. And I do have to say for a moment, talking about those idiosyncrasies and subtle nuances and stuff in there, it's just him keeping it kind of loose, you know. At one point, I think it's about the 1 minute mark, maybe a little bit earlier, instead of playing, he actually plays. So that's just him adding a little color, right? So he's bending the 3rd fret on the A string, open A string, 3rd fret on the G string, or E string, excuse me, with a bend, and back to A. Just a little bluesy kind of feel, and then he adds that rhythm texture. Down, down, up, up. So there's little bits and pieces in there like that that are nice to catch if you can do that, okay? So we come back and play those 2 chords twice, the A minor 9th to the E minor 9th, and then we go to a D minor 7th again, to a G9. I'll go through all of this, back to D minor 7th, and then, believe it or not, an E sus flat 9. So let me just play through those sections for you. Trill in there. So he just lets those chords ring out. This is the part, you'll see it's all clear, you were meant to be here. This is a D minor 7 to a G9, back to D minor 7, and then, believe it or not, it's an E sus flat 9. And if you want to toss that little bass trill in there, it's the 2nd fret on the D string to the 3rd fret, and just trill it out. Kind of fun to add in there if you want to. Later on, he strums those chords, so we'll talk about that as well. So instead of letting that D minor 7 and the G9 ring out, he plays a little rhythm pattern. Back in again, okay? So that's just a few, again, of those little nuances or subtleties in there that are fun to pick up on, okay? And so he rumbles through the whole tune again, just the way he did it before, and but there's one other little part that happens just before the guitar solo comes in. Okay, so that's pretty slick, right? So let's talk about the best way to approach that. And I probably should have warmed up a little bit before attempting that lick. I think I nailed it. I'll have to go back and check the video. But in any event, it is purely chromatic, and you'll hear a couple of anomalies. Again, it sounds like he hits an open B string or an F-sharp note or something. But again, that's just him going for the lick, okay? So you want to try to hit the chord if you can, and then play the lick. And then go for the lick, okay? So it's purely chromatic, and I use strict alternate picking for this, starting with a downstroke. Pretty nice. And then it's just back to the rhythm. And they go into the guitar solo, which just takes place over what we've done. The song is basically a giant loop with the exception of that intro, and then they kind of vamp at the end for the keyboard solo from Keith Emerson. I may do a couple of follow-up videos to this, one to do the guitar solo itself, and maybe even one to do Keith Emerson's keyboard solo on guitar. As a lot of you know, I love to put keyboard parts on guitar. So there you go with From the Beginning from Emerson, Lake and Palmer, the fabulous Trilogy album. And I hope you guys enjoyed it, and all the best to everyone.